we're back with another F2 basketball podcast, and we are very excited today because we've got Coach Jeff Battle from the Providence Friars here. Coach, thanks for being on with us, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And we were just talking a second ago about that beautiful background that you have there. How excited are you about hopefully getting back to that this year?
Oh, man, I'm really excited. That place where we play at the Dunkin' Donuts Center is very unique. It has a lot of tradition, a lot of history. The fans love it. The students get behind us, and it just rocks. And so, we're just hoping we get back to some type of normalcy, but it would be great to be able to play back in that environment again.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet, man. I need to get up there and check out a game too. So right, crazy environment right now. I mean, in terms of just being on and off with COVID, and I mean, how have you guys handled that as a coaching staff in terms of some of the uncertainty that the guys are dealing with?
Well, it's funny because it's a mental thing too. More so than I think a lot of people think. And our big thing is trying to keep our guys in a great place mentally, providing them help with that as well, letting them know they have someone to talk to. Because right now, everything is negative. There's a lot of negativity going around in the world. So big thing with us right now, obviously we're trying to prepare for a season, but our mental well-being of our players is what's first and foremost for us right now, to be honest with you.
Well, and great. So totally agree that there's a ton of negative out there, not even just around COVID, but around some of the racial issues that are going in our country and social injustice. And so what are a couple of things that you guys are doing to keep that positivity going mentally?
Well, we talk to them, the main thing is communication. We kind of over communicate with our guys right now. And the most important thing too, Colin, is letting them know that they have a voice and doing a lot more listening, so that they know that we have their back, and no matter what they want to feel, what they want to express, and that they have that right and freedom to express how they're feeling right now. And so just being there for them, for that, supporting them and letting them know that they have a voice, I think is really important.
And that's huge. I mean, when you're talking about building that trust between players and coaches, and a lot of young people struggle with being able to process their thoughts and their emotions, maybe not something that they're used to. Certainly athletes, they get to express themselves on the court a lot, but maybe not so much altogether the other way. So that sounds like, and I, knowing you as I do, I know that that's something you've done. You've been in this business for, 69 years. Oh, 30 years, excuse me, Coach. For a long time, you've been in this business. So I know that you know how to care about players and develop relationships. So I'm not surprised there. Talking about how long you've been in the business. This is going on year.
Man, I think it's 31, if I'm not mistaken.
31 years. And you've been at Providence for how long?
5 years.
Awesome. And before that, I know that you were at Wake Forest and Xavier prior to that. How did you get started? You've been in it for 31 years. There's a lot of coaches that see you where you are and say, man, I'd love to be there one day. How'd you get started?
Well, it's funny because going back, I didn't really want to be a college coach. When I started out, I wanted to be a high school coach and a guidance counselor. And that was my thing. And then I was able to get a high school job in Delaware. And, fortunately, we practiced at a school at Delaware State. And so I kind of got connected with the head coach there. He used to watch my teams practice. We used to practice at their facility. And he said to me one day, he said, Jeff, man, you really know what you're doing, man. He goes, if I ever got a spot on my staff, I'm going to try to hire you. And I just kind of thought about it and was like, okay, coach, I appreciate it. But really, I didn't really even think about college coaching until that conversation with him. And then it kind of worked out after that. And then I got on the college side and, fortunate enough to be in it for this amount of time.
Yeah. And so you said you thought about being a high school coach and a guidance counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And really that's like counseling and coaching very much blend together, right?
Absolutely. In this day and age, you're a little bit of everything now. You're not just
Yeah.
a coach. You're a mentor. You're a father figure, psychologist. I mean, you're kind of the full gamut with these guys. In this day and age, which I enjoy. I enjoy that part of it.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because it's coming back to you were a high school coach and you were doing a really good job at what you were doing and somebody took notice. A lot of times we want to be somewhere, but we forget that we've got to excel where we are, before we're prepared for where we want to get to. Was that just kind of your makeup? I'm just going to do the best where I am and really excel there, and without any thought of college coaching?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny. I was talking to someone the other day that we were talking about, projecting, advancing in the business and that kind of thing. And I said, my philosophy has always been just kind of be who you are, be who you are, do what you do, let your work speak for itself. And I've never gotten a job based on a resume, like sending someone a resume and saying, look at this, can you hire me? It's always been word of mouth. Someone has said, man, you need to talk to Jeff Battle because he's pretty good at this, he does that, carries himself the right way, high character guy. And so I've never really gotten a job based on a resume. So that's kind of been my thing. It's kind of, do what you do the best you can where you're at, and then, it'll happen for you.
That's a powerful tool right there, because I think a lot of times, certainly in this day and age, and in social media and self-promotion, we feel like we've got to make sure everybody sees what I've done and this and that. But what it sounds like you're talking about is relationships, building those relationships with other coaches, doing a great job where you are, and then people are going to talk about you because you do so well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, Colin, real quick, I just want to mention something about that because I think it's important for people to hear. Some people say that has hurt me as well in the business. That's why I haven't become a head coach, is because I haven't done all that. I haven't promoted myself. I haven't quote unquote tooted my own horn. I recruited this guy, and this guy's a pro, and that guy's a pro, and being on Twitter and this, I did that, and so I just want to mention that as well. Some people say that can hurt you as well, but to me, you know, I feel more better. I feel better for myself personally, knowing I've done it this way, and so
And
I've kind
Jeff,
of stayed on that path, if you will.
that's huge, man, because here's the deal. Like, uh, you saying that it could have hurt you, but in honesty, the reason that you're such a good coach as you are is because you're yourself. There's so many times that success gets told to us what it should be,
Correct.
right? Me knowing you, I feel like you believe you're a pretty successful guy because of the players that you've impacted, the coaches that you've been able to coach under. I don't see you being one of those guys that's just chasing everything in the sky because you think that that's what's going to make you happy.
No doubt. No doubt.
And so many times we keep getting told like, hey, what's next, like, and we forget to enjoy where we are. um
Absolutely.
and so I appreciate about you, and I really appreciate that you said that too, because for you're not a head coach right now, but you've coached under some pretty impactful guys. Ed Cooley, to me, man, I think I would love to coach under him. You were under Skip Prosser for so long.
Mhm.
Tell me about those relationships. Tell me about like what stood out to you for coaching under those really, really fantastic coaches for so long.
Yeah, I've been blessed, man. I've worked under, some really good coaches, but most importantly, good people that have allowed me to be myself, allowed me to coach, allowed me to grow, and not only in the business, but also as a person. I learned so many life lessons from Coach Prosser. Everybody kind of attaches me to him. He's my mentor. Everybody knows that. There's no secret to that. But he just taught me how to treat people, and treat people the same no matter what capacity they're in. And, I just learned so much about him. He taught me the business of recruiting, how to recruit. Because when I got with him, I didn't really know a whole lot. I came in just kind of like, Coach, just teach me the business, teach me everything. I'm willing to learn. I'm a sponge. And thank God for that, and thank God for him that he was put in my life, because I
Mm.
know I wouldn't be where I'm at today without him.
Yeah, and what a special guy. I mean, the coaches obviously that he's impacted, but then also the players. Like, I think it's pretty awesome the legacy that he's left behind. And now you're with Ed Cooley, another guy who's a great relational coach. I mean, he's done a great job since he's been at Providence. You've had a hand in that. How the relationship between you guys, like, because he's more of your, not as much of a like age wise. Like you guys are pretty close to age wise, right?
Well, I'm older than him.
Okay.
Um, and we have a unique relationship because we're like best friends.
Yeah.
So I've known Coach Cooley for 20 something years.
Oh wow.
And I was actually the one that kind of, I don't want to say mentored him, but discussed coaching with him.
Yeah.
So when I met him, he was still an assistant coach, and we had some conversations, and we just kind of introduced ourselves to each other on the road. And I kind of explained the business to him, how it works, and hey, look, if you do this, and this, man, you're going to be a head coach one day. And he kind of looked at me like, who's this guy? And then we just stayed in touch, and we developed a great friendship over the years. And we always said whoever got a head coach first, we would try to hire the other one.
Yeah.
And when he got his first job at Fairfield, I was at Wake, and we had to go in there well, and I couldn't leave that situation.
Right.
He understood that. But this time around, when he had an opening 5 years ago, it worked out perfect. And so, but he's my best friend, and so a lot of people say, how is it working with your best friend like that? Does that cause friction? But it's totally the opposite. We're like family, and so we can discuss stuff, we can have conversations. But at the same time, I know he loves me and he wants what's best for me. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure that bleeds over into how you all develop relationships with your players. I mean, if you guys from the staff are so unified and so together, caring about each other, I mean, that sets a culture for the way that people are going to behave within whether it's the managers or the players or the staff. I mean, I know it feels like family up there. I've talked to a few up there, so I know it does.
Yeah, he does. He's created a great culture here, and he's like a father figure to our players. We have open, honest discussions with our guys. Our guys respect him because they know he's a straight shooter. They know what they're getting. And at the end of the day, guys really play hard for him. So
yeah,
I think that says a lot right there in itself.
Absolutely, and so you guys have what feels like a loaded roster, man, and you've got a special point guard on that team in David Duke. But David Duke is not the most special point guard that you have coached in your time, brother. We're looking back at what you have done. You don't have to toot your own resume. I mean, we're looking at, you at Wake, you had Chris Paul and Jeff Teague and Ish Smith, guys that are all still in the league now. You had Chris Dunn while you were in Providence. So tell me, what makes these NBA pros point guards, what did you notice in them in college where you knew that they were going to be successful? And then also, how did you direct them as point guards? Because that's one of the hardest positions in the game, right?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, they're all special people. They all have that quality. They're all competitive as hell, which I loved in the recruiting process. I wasn't fortunate enough to recruit Chris Dunn. He was here for a year. When I got here, I only coached him for a year. But all the guys at Wake, I was there with them for their whole duration, definitely involved in the recruiting process. But all those guys had the same type of attributes, like I said, was the competitive drive to be great. Chris Paul was special, right out of the gate. He came in, he was a leader right from day one. He had that quality about him to command the room, command the locker room. When he walked in the gym, he kind of controlled everything. And, he was just special from the beginning. And you just it was just a matter of time with him. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then the rest of those guys, like I said before, they just put the work in. I tell everybody all the time, I'm proud of them, what they're doing in the NBA right now. I kind of just help with the blueprint, but they put the work in. And so I can't be more proud of all those guys.
Yeah. And so one of the things that you said is that competitiveness. Can you break down for a player that might be listening to this, what is that competitive nature, competitive grit, whatever it is, what is it that that coaches are looking for, that you see it when you see it, you know that's it?
Well, number one is the drive to win at everything that you do. You know, um, I keep going back to Chris, but even like David right now, David Duke, who's here right now, he's a competitive guy in the fact that he wants to win every drill, every shooting drill. You know, if I do competitive shooting with some of the other guards on the team, he wants to know who did well today because he wants to beat that score the next day.
Yeah.
And I don't have to get that and force that out of him. That's just kind of a natural competitive drive that he has. CP was the same way. Those guys would do anything to get an edge. And it's not just on the floor; it's off the floor, watching film. I tell the story all the time. Chris Paul, after a game, he would meet me in my office the next morning. I'd come in, he'd be right there, knocking on my door. Coach, let's watch the film. And never wanted to watch his good plays. He wanted to watch what he didn't do well. He's like, Coach, I don't need to see that right there. I already know I did that well. Why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing that? Let's watch the stuff I need to get better at. And so that's a competitor to me. That's someone,
right.
In this day and age, everybody wants to see their, the alley-oops. They want to see their passes, whatever. Oh, look at me, pound my chest. But that's really not how you get better at the end of the day. So they allow themselves to be coached and taught.
And that's interesting right there, because you said he wanted to watch the plays that he didn't do well at. He wanted to say, Coach, how can I get better? So a lot of players right now, like you said, are looking for that little highlight because they feel like they need that to make themselves feel better. He already had that sort of confidence, right, of how can I get better?
How can I get better?
Philosophically, do you think that you can teach a player to be more competitive, or do you think it's in their nature?
I think it's in their nature, but I think it's something that you can stress and you can, improve upon. By constantly showing them situations where they could have been more competitive in, or not settling, and everybody talks about, wanting to be great, and you can talk about it, but my thing is, let's be about it. So, just showing them different situations where they can compete and being truthful with them. Players, there's this misconception that good players don't want to be coached or can't be coached and, but I don't agree with that. I think at the end of the day, they want discipline. They want to be coached. They want to know if you can help them get better. And it's up to you as the coach to figure out what buttons to push to make that happen.
Absolutely. And that's, 30
and
everybody's
years.
Everybody's
different,
Sure.
Some guys you can, hug them and tell them. Some guys you bring them in and kind of have aggressive counseling. Some guys you kind of, nurture through the process a little bit, but everybody's different. But once you find that niche and that button, then that's when you see the growth.
Okay, great. So really what you just brought up as a coach is the awareness, right? Awareness of your guys, how they receive coaching in a certain way. There is the old school, right? Where okay, so, the old school to me is the coach says, hey, this is how we do it. Everybody's got to do it this way. There's only one way, and you coach everybody the same way. Doesn't seem like that is so much received anymore as the coaching and having some awareness of how your guys learn or how they coach. So can you talk to me about how you've developed your awareness around that? Because it's a big deal.
No, exactly. Everybody's different. And I think nowadays you have to spend more time getting to know the players. Back in the day, like you said, it was more, you bring them in, coach, hear me roar, hey, you show up to practice at 3, you do your deal, you do your drills, you play the game, and then you might not have any communication with that kid until the next practice. Well, now you got to constantly be in touch with them, knowing what they're feeling, because some days, David might have had a bad day. They're kids. We have to remember that. He might have had a bad day. Maybe he's got, problems with his girlfriend or something or whatever. So if I know that up front from communicating with him, now I know how to deal with him that day on the floor. And so it's a constant communication thing, and developing trust. They have to trust you. Once they trust you, they'll buy in. And that's one of the things that Coach Cooley's great at. is getting those guys to buy in and trust him. What he's telling them is going to be the best for them, but also help us win games for the team. And so it comes from developing relationship, getting to know them, spending time talking, texting, whatever you got to do with the communication.
And that's amazing too. As coaches, certainly at the highest levels, winning. I mean, that's you're brought in to win as a coach, to get the team to play as well as you can to win. And it sounds like coaches need to go first in terms of showing the players that you care about them, so that they're willing and able to do what you're asking them to do. A lot of times we want them to do it regardless of what, how we feel about them. But it's like you say create that buy-in. And how, so players that don't buy in, what do you do?
Well, like I said, man, one of the things I learned from Coach Prosser, he used to always tell me this, and it always resonates with me. He used to tell me, he used to say, JB, he said, it's easy to motivate the motivated. The great ones have to motivate the unmotivated. Mm. And so that always resonates with me. So whenever I become part of a staff, I always try to figure out who the guy is that's kind of like maybe a little bit off on his own on an island. And, most staffs do this. They take an assistant coach might take, you're responsible for 3 or 4 guys, academically, basketball, whatever. And I always try to get, quote unquote, the toughest guy, because I want to be able to try to reach him and motivate him. So that's kind of my deal with that, but that always resonates with me. So the great ones have to be able to, it's easy to kind of, it's easy to really, to be honest with you, it's easy to motivate David Duke, because he's an everyday guy. He's going to bring it. Now how do I get to that other guy that's one day he's good, next day he's pouting, or he's low energy. Now, how do we get this guy to get to that level we need him to get to? And that's the beauty of coaching. That's the beauty of it.
Right, getting the most out of the guys and what they need. Jeff, that's like your heart. I just see it, man, and that's why I appreciate you, and that's why I also brought you on here, is because I really wanted to make sure that whoever our audience is that's listening to this understands that coaching is way more about relationships than it is about the X's and O's. I mean, you and I haven't talked about, hey, what's your favorite out of bounds play? Yeah, we haven't talked about, what's your after timeout stuff. Although that's really important, it's almost irrelevant if you don't have the relationships.
Absolutely. The question is, will people play for you? That's the biggest thing with this thing. Will they play for you? And you have to be real, and you have to be authentic. Players these days, they read right through if you're fake, if you're phony. Man, coach just saying, he's full of BS. He's just saying this, They read through that. So you have to be real. You have to be yourself. And I think that's one of the reasons why, and a big indicator of that to me, Colin, is how do your former players react to you? Are they still in touch with you? I still get calls, texts. Me and Chris Paul still talk. We text. Ish Smith, Jeff Teague talked to him the other day. I reach out to Chris Dunn. I mean, we still are in communication, because they knew, when I was around them, that I was as real as I could be. They knew what they were getting, And so you have to be yourself. You have to be real. You have to be authentic. You can't just be, I read this in a coaching book, so I'm going to say this speech today. You got to, you know what I mean? They read that. They read that. So,
you can't fake caring about somebody.
Yeah, you can't, but it has to be consistent though.
Right. I love it. So coaches that are coming up, coaches that might be high school coaches like you were years ago, that may be thinking, hey, how do I make my next step? How do I progress in this coaching business? What are some tips that you would give to guys about wanting to make that step? Ladies or guys, I mean, either side.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing is you have to realize that you don't have all the answers. I mean, that's how I am now. I'm consistently growing. I'm consistently learning, learning my craft, if you will. It's funny, you mentioned, men or women. I watch as much women basketball as I watch men basketball. I love it. I love how fundamental they are. I love how they have to execute. So I'm a big women's basketball fan as well. our staff, they laugh at me, Coach Cooley, man, I can't believe you watch that, how you just watch so much, but that's, to me, I'm learning.
Right.
I'm consistently on podcasts. I'm consistently on YouTube. One of the things that I do is that I think is important for people who want to aspire is I watch all the post-game interviews, whether it's a college game or a pro game. I watch the coaches, what they say after these games, because you can learn so much. A lot of coaches don't know how to handle their team after a loss. You're all upset, whatever. But I watch some of these press conferences and I'm like, oh, okay, wow, he was really calm and cool, after a loss. And, maybe that's the way to be or whatever. Anything, it could be one little nugget you pick up. But that would be my advice, is to constantly keep learning, reaching out to people, talking just like we're doing now, talking. I don't think we do enough of this as coaches, whether it's high school coaches or college coaches. And we're in the business, at least I am, of sharing. That's how you develop and grow, is through sharing knowledge.
I love it. Well, how about on the other side of it? How about something to not do? What have you seen? I know you've seen a lot of young guys trying to rise up the ranks. What are some of the mistakes that you've seen from them that may have actually hurt them in terms of getting the next gig or staying in the business?
Everybody has their own deal. Again, like I said before, I'm not really like a self-promoter guy. The biggest thing that I see a lot of young guys do is they're worrying about where they're at as opposed to who they're with. And that's huge for young coaches. And I talk to a lot of them. They call me sometimes for advice, and I tell them that, it's not where you're at, it's who you're with. Because that guy that you're with, whoever you're with, he's going to control your career. Because no matter where you move on from there, he's going to be involved. He's either going to help you get that next job, or that next job is going to contact him to talk to him about you. So it's who you're with. And if you're with a person who is not what you're about in terms of morals and doing things the right way, or you're in a situation where you're not allowed to grow, you're going to be miserable. I don't care how much money you're making. You're going to be miserable as hell. And you're going to go home, you're going to sit there and go, what the hell am I doing? And so who you're with, if you're with a guy that you respect, that's going to take care of you, that's got your back, it's going to let you coach, grow, be a part of the program in every kind of way to promote you to be a head coach, bingo, that's what you got to do. So the biggest mistake I think young coaches make is they're chasing, and it's not about where they're at. They're trying to get to the highest level, but the most important thing is who you're with.
That's a good word right there, Jeff Battle. Man, so you guys are going into the season, and we kind of look ahead. What's firm for you guys? Do you know, do you guys have conference schedule? Do you have? I just saw something maybe that you guys aren't playing Rhode Island.
That's correct.
So what is it that's certain, and what is still uncertain in terms of what you guys will be doing this year?
Well, the only thing that's really certain that we know is that we can start playing games on November 25th.
Okay.
Other than that, it's all kind of fluctuating. It's a daily thing with the schedule now. We're still not sure how many non-conference games we can play before we get into league play. So that's kind of, causing some schedule anxiety, if you will.
Sure.
But we do know we're going to start the season. So that's a good thing, because at first we didn't know that. And we're just preparing each day as if we're going to start on the 25th. And, we're going to throw it up regardless of, if we're ready or not.
Right.
So that's pretty much all that's intact right now.
Right. Well, and I know that you and Coach Cooley are just going to keep directing those guys and getting them as prepared as you can. Jeff, I've certainly enjoyed our talk. I really hope that some of these coaches that are listening in really take the advice that you've given, and even just some of your insight and wisdom. And I mean, I appreciate who you are as a man, because I know you develop players, you develop men, and that's what you valued in being with Coach Prosser and being with Coach Cooley. And so for those of you guys who don't follow Coach Battle on Twitter, lock into him. He's a great dude. Really good things happening already in Providence, and I can't wait to see some more of that stuff shake out. Jeff, I really appreciate you being with us, my man.
Hey, Colin, I appreciate it, man. Glad to be on. I appreciate you giving me a platform. Like I said before, this thing is all about. It's not about me. It's not about Providence. It's about promoting knowledge and helping the next person get where they want to be. And so, anything I can do to help that, I'm always willing to do that. And again, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, brother. We'll talk soon.
Okay, man. Take care.
Take care.
Bye bye.